and the government is working through these with the governments of Malaysia and Indonesia. But if we can create a climate of confidence around our halal procedures, we can build on this competitive advantage. And when I was in Malaysia, the dinner we had in the evening, I sat next to the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib, and just as we were leaving at the end, he said to me, "John, you're taking this halal issue seriously, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "It's a $2 trillion market. You can sell a lot more here. Just remember where the consumers of tomorrow are coming from." And he's got a point. Another example of challenges that we faced cropped up in last week's Guardian newspaper, where a columnist criticised New Zealand's environmental credentials. He pointed out that we've had a 22% rise in greenhouse emissions since 1990, and he claimed that our clean and green image increasingly defies reality. This is more important than you might think. The readers of The Guardian and other newspapers buy our meat and they buy our wine. Environmentally aware consumers across Britain and Europe are increasingly demanding higher environmental standards for the food that they buy. Meanwhile, America's largest supermarket chain, Walmart, is introducing a sustainability index. It includes factors such as the impact on natural resources, energy and climate change in the manufacture of its products. And it's not alone. From McDonald's to the UK supermarket chain Waitrose, the big companies that sell our products are demanding better standards for the products they stock. So regardless of your view about the environment or climate change, the opinions of your consumers will ultimately decide how well your products sell. That is why what my Minister of Trade calls that the customer is now the regulator. As trade barriers fall around the world, the key to selling what we grow won't be the demands or regulations of governments. It will increasingly be the demands and requirements of consumers concerned about what they eat, where that food came from, and the impacts the growing of that food has on the environment. And that, I've got to tell you, is something we need to be very careful about. So our question as a government is, how do we make the most of these opportunities and how do we best meet these challenges? First of all, the government's top priority is New Zealand's economic success. We have an economic agenda that is aimed squarely at lifting the performance of our economy through 6 main policy drivers: regulatory reform, better public services, education and skills, a world-class tax system, investment in infrastructure, and innovation and business assistance. These last 2 items have particular implications for agriculture. Stephen Joyce will talk more about infrastructure investment tomorrow, particularly in broadband, roads and water, but there is just one point I want to make today. We see broadband as a key technology that will help farmers connect with and understand their customers and ever-changing requirements around the world. That's why, in addition to our $1.5 billion commitment to build an ultra-fast broadband network in cities and towns, we've launched a $300 million plan to boost broadband in rural areas. Innovation and business assistance is an area where agriculture has a great deal to contribute and a lot to gain. We recognise that huge potential that science has to lift our economic performance. That's why I am the first Prime Minister in New Zealand's history to have appointed a Chief Science Advisor, Sir Peter Gluckman. One of the things that Sir Peter is exploring is how we can enhance the contribution of agricultural science. And I'm very interested to learn what Dr. Goldston has to say on that subject in today's address, though I have to apologise, I have to leave halfway through his presentation. But the government has set up a task force to determine how New Zealand can best benefit from our Crown Research Institutes. We're reviewing investment priorities in science, and we're assessing options for improving business, research and development performance, and I'm pretty sure you are going to see some changes in 2010. We've also made a big contribution to boosting research and innovation in the primary sector through the Primary Growth Partnership, which commits $190 million of government investment over the next 4 years. This will be matched by industry. I spoke about the PGP at your annual conference, so I won't go into detail here, and Nick Smith will have a lot more to say about it tomorrow. But I do want to emphasise that the Primary Growth Partnership will only be as successful as you want it to be. The willingness of farmers and the farming industry to get behind PGP and match funding will determine how well it benefits your industry. Part of the funding for PGP is dedicated to a Centre for Agricultural Greenhouse Gas Research. This is our commitment to boosting research into on-farm emissions reduction technology. Since your annual conference, we've made some important steps towards developing the Centre into a global alliance. There is an urgent need for more international research and investment into ways of mitigating such emissions. There's also a need for greater coordination of existing efforts. Our proposed global alliance will involve working with other countries to find solutions for greenhouse gas emissions in the agricultural sector. And given the huge reliance of our agricultural sector on pastoral farming and the fact that about half of our emissions come from livestock, it makes sense for us to lead this initiative. Already, some of the world's biggest economies, the United States, Japan, India and China, have expressed support for the proposal. Cabinet has agreed that New Zealand will lead work to establish the Global Alliance. Agricultural Minister David Carter is currently in Rome at a World Summit on Food Security, where he's building further support for the Global Alliance. And we will be convening an international meeting on the Global Alliance next year and inviting other countries to take part. There's an important point I want to make here. As I said back in July, there is only so much the government can do to meet the challenges we face in our economy and that you face in your industry, because we know that the future of agriculture is not just up to us. In so many ways, that future is in your hands. And just as the Primary Growth Partnership and the investment we're making in research and